Hydroponics, a step-by-step guide to setting up your first hydroponic home gardening system. Grow vegetables, fruit, and herbs. Gardening, organic gardening, homesteading, horticulture, aquaculture. Written by Alan Hitchcock. Narrated by K. Marie DeNino. Chapter 1. What is hydroponics? Hydroponics is a modern alternative to farming in which you are able to grow plants without soil. Instead of relying on soil, solutions of mineral nutrients in a water solvent can be used for the plant to grow from. Plants can be grown through hydroponics with only their roots being exposed to a nutrient solution. Growing mediums will also be used in order for the roots of the plant to be supported. A couple of these mediums are gravel and perlite. Hydroponics can rely on nutrients such as duck manure, fish waste, or regular fertilizer. The difference between hydroponics and traditional farming. With traditional farming, seeds need to be planted in soil with other nutrients such as manure. The soon-to-be plants then rely on water and sun exposure in combination with the nutrients in order to grow. When plants are grown through the use of traditional farming, elemental factors will influence the growth of these plants depending on what resources you have. For instance, if you're able to grow plants in pots outside, instead of relying on rain to water the plants, you are able to simply water them yourself with a pitcher of water. When your plants need more sun, you can move the pots to areas that are exposed to more sunlight. Of course, simple plants that are in pots are not the exact same as traditional farming. In the selected area of farming, you are unable to move the farm to areas of more sun exposure. There are sources that can be used in order to water your farm. Other than these two components, you aren't left with much control over your farm and its successful growth. You have to mainly rely on the atmosphere and elements of the land. When storms hit, your crop can greatly suffer from winds and too much water exposure. When droughts occur, you may be unable to balance out the level of water required for your crop, regardless of what resources are available to you. You are given much more control over various factors that the growth of your plants can be influenced by with hydroponics. The main reason why hydroponics has its name is that you are able to grow plants with water instead of the traditional use of soil. The environment of your plants is water-based. All of the nutrients will also be delivered to the plants through the use of water. You are also able to use LED lights to help support the growth of your plants as well. Depending on what kind of crop you want to build through the use of hydroponics, you are also able to control the temperature and humidity levels as well. The whole atmosphere of your plants is able to be controlled by you. This brings many benefits. The biggest benefit is, perhaps, the greater odds of attaining a successful crop of healthy and prosperous plants. The difference between hydroponics and aquaponics. The above paragraph mentions that the delivery of nutrients to plants through water is the main reason that hydroponics gets its name. Hydro comes from a Greek word which means water. Aqua also means water, but hydroponics and aquaponics are not the same thing, even though they may sound the same when you dissect the names of these two farming techniques. Hydroponics comes from hydroculture, while aquaponics comes from aquaculture. Hydroculture is what we know as farming plants with water. Aquaculture is very similar, but refers to the farming of aquatic organisms instead of plants. Just how hydroponics works with plants, aquaponics is the same things with aquatic organisms. Different types of fish, mollusks, crustaceans, algae, and even aquatic plants are grown under controlled conditions. Aquaculture can also be known as aqua farming and involves both aquatic populations of freshwater and saltwater organisms. Even though both of these farming techniques are different, they can both be used in combination in order to benefit each other. The excretions from the animals or aquatic plants will raise the level of toxicity in the water. These levels of toxicity will act as nutrients that can be supplied to the plants through the water. A hydroponic system is able to break down bacteria. It does this by nitrifying it into nitrates, which are then able to be used by the plants as a nutrient source. The water is then able to be recirculated into the aquaculture system and then be used by the aquatic organisms. Chapter 2. Types of hydroponic techniques. Now that you understand what hydroponics is and what makes it different from aquaponics and traditional farming, you can learn about the different types that are available for this type of alternative farming. When it comes to hydroponics, there are two types of variations depending on which medium is used for the plants. Those two variations are irrigation, sub-irrigation. These two variations refer to the method that water can be supplied to the plants. Irrigation allows controlled amounts of water to be supplied to plants according to scheduled intervals. Sub-irrigation allows water to be delivered through different methods than regular irrigation. It has been used in many years in areas that had high water tables for field crops. This method allows the water table to be artificially raised so that water can be delivered below the zone of the roots of the plant. This method of irrigation is usually found in areas of permanent grasslands, located in lowlands, and combined with infrastructure for drainage. These irrigation systems include pumping stations, canals, weirs, and gates for the flow of water to be increased or decreased in order to control the water table. Simply put, regular irrigation controls water flow above the root level of the plant, while sub-irrigation controls the water flow below the level of the roots. The techniques. In this section of the book, the various techniques will be introduced along with how they function and the different benefits that each one provides. Listed below are the different techniques that can be used to implement hydroponics: continuous flow solution culture, static solution culture, fogponics, deep water culture, ebb and flow, flood and drain sub-irrigation, run to waste, rotary, top-fed deep water culture, aeroponics, passive sub-irrigation. Static solution culture. In this hydroponic technique, containers that hold the nutrient-rich solution are used in order to grow the plants. These containers can be one of those that are listed below: glass mason jars, plastic buckets, plastic tubs, plastic tanks. Usually, the solution for the plants is aerated. The solution is also able to be unaerated as well. For unaerated solutions, the roots need to be above the solution. This means that the solution should be kept at a lower level in order for the roots to receive adequate oxygen exposure. For each container in the plant, a hole is able to be cut into it to allow the flow of oxygen. Each container is able to hold either just one plant, several, or many, depending on the layout for the hydroponic system. As the size of the plants increase, the containers can be switched out with larger sizes to accommodate the growth of the plants. This type of system can easily be homemade using glass mason jars or recycling plastic food containers. Aeration can be provided by using a pump meant for aquariums, airline tubing for aquariums, along with aquarium valves. The elimination of light can be done by using butcher paper, aluminum foil, black plastic, or other materials. These materials can be used in order to cover clear containers and exclude light. The formation of algae will also be eliminated through this process. You should change out your solution at least once a week, but you can also follow a guideline of checking when the concentration drops below a specified level. The concentration level can be determined through the use of an electrical conductivity meter. Either fresh nutrients or more water will need to be added to the reservoir of the nutrient solution depending on the level of depletion in its content. The solution level can also be maintained automatically with the use of a float valve or a Marriott's bottle. A sheet of buoyant plastic can be used for the placement of plants in a raft solution culture. The surface of the nutrient solution is what the sheet will float on. This method allows the solution level to never drop below the root level of the plants. Fogponics. This growing technique is derived from aeroponics. Through the use of a diaphragm that vibrates at speeds of ultrasonic frequencies, the nutrient solution is able to be aerosolized. The droplets produced from the solution tend to be much smaller than droplets that are produced in aeroponics. When the droplets are smaller in size, it gives an advantage in which they are able to be diffused throughout the air easily. The roots are able to receive access to oxygen without it being limited. Passive sub-irrigation. Passive hydroponics or semi-hydroponics is what this technique is also known as. It allows plants to grow in a medium that is porous so that the fertilizer and water are able to be transferred to the roots. The transfer of nutrients and water happens through capillary action in the plant from a container that is separate. A constant water supply and reduced labor are provided through this technique. This technique in a simple method would be to either have the nutrient solution sitting at a shallow level in a pot or on a mat called a capillary mat. This mat is saturated with the nutrient solution. More airspace is available to pots when using all the various types of mediums that are used in hydroponics compared to potting mixes that are traditionally used. The roots will be supplied with an adequate amount of oxygen. This is a very important factor for plants, especially those such as bromeliads or orchids. Those kinds of plants have exposed roots in nature. There is also a reduced risk of root rot that is an advantage of passive hydroponics. Additional ambient humidity that is provided through evaporations is another advantage of this hydroponic technique. Run to waste. This hydroponic technique periodically applies water and nutrients to the surface of the growing medium. This system was invented in 1946 in Bengal. This hydroponic system is also known as and is sometimes referred to as the Bengal system for this very reason. In order to set up this method, various configurations are able to be used. In the simplest form, a solution of nutrients and water are manually applied at least once more on a daily basis. The application takes place in a container which the media for growing is held. This hydroponic technique pairs very well with the growing mediums such as cocoa fiber, rock wool, sand, vermiculite, and perlite. In a more complex system, a delivery pump automates the water and nutrient solution. A timer for the delivery pump, along with tubing, is necessary for the delivery of the nutrient solution. By relying on key factors such as the stage of plant growth, size of plant, the climate, substrate being used, and the conductivity of the substrate along with the pH level and content of water will determine the rate of delivery and frequency. In commercial settings, the frequency of watering is based on multiple factors and is guided by the use of computers. Larger plants, such as cucumbers, peppers, and tomatoes, are used commonly in commercial hydroponics. These typically take advantage of run-to-waste hydroponics. For uses of this type of method, it can be environmentally responsible and very productive. A filtration system allows the nutrient-rich waste to be collected and then processed. The nutrient solution is then able to be used many times through this method. Soil-free substrates are now used to grow the majority of bonsai trees. Akadama, diatomaceous earth, and grit are the usual types of substrates along with other components that are inorganic. Top-fed deep water culture. This technique of hydroponics involves the delivery of a nutrient solution that is highly oxygenated. This solution is directly delivered to the root zone of the plant. Top-fed water culture relies on the pumping of a solution from the reservoir and up into the roots. This is considered top feeding. Then, the water is released over the roots of the plant, which drains back down into the reservoir which it came from. A recirculating system is the technique in which this works. Top-fed water culture also has an air stone, which is located in the reservoir at the middle. The air stone constantly supplies oxygen into the water by pumping air throughout it. This occurs through the use of a hose which is connected to the outside of the reservoir. This device brings the addition of oxygen into the water. This device runs constantly. Perhaps the biggest advantage of this hydroponic technique over a deep water culture is that you have an increased rate of growth that will occur in the plants, especially in the first few weeks. A time will occur in deep water culture where the roots are unable to access the water because they are too short and cannot reach it. However, in the culture of top-fed deep water, the roots already have easy access to the water and nutrients. Factors such as root length and the growth stage of the plant will not affect the plant's access to the nutrient solution. Rotary. Commercial hydroponics is where this type of method is usually practiced. A garden is created in a frame that is circular in shape. This circular frame garden will then rotate during the whole growth cycle of a plant on a continual basis. These systems will typically rotate on a rate of once per hour. Located at the center of the garden is a grow light of high intensity. It is designed to stimulate sunlight, which is often assisted by a mechanical timer. The plants in the garden are periodically watered with their nutrient solution, which provides all the nutrients that will ensure the best growth. Since the plants will have to continuously fight against gravity, they will typically mature on a much more rapid basis compared to solitary plants. Hydroponic systems. When it comes to the different types of hydroponic systems that are available, there are mainly 6 different types that you can use. 1. Wick systems. 2. Deep water culture, DWC. 3. Nutrient film technique, NFT. 4. Ebb and flow, flood and drain. 5. Aeroponics. 6. Drip systems. There are different benefits that are offered by each type of hydroponic system depending on which nutrient solution you plan to use and what type of plants you plan to grow. In this section of the book, the benefits and compatibility of different plants and solutions will be presented. Wicking systems. These types of hydroponic systems are perhaps the most basic type of system when it comes to hydroponic setups. It is very easy to construct yourself as well. This system has also been used for thousands of years. This system is a form of passive hydroponics. It is referred to that kind of system since it does not rely on any air or water pumps for its functionality. Using a wick, the water and the nutrient solution is able to be moved into the root zone of the plant. A wick can be any material, as simple as a piece of felt or rope. A successful key to consider when using a wicking system is to choose your growing medium wisely. You should pick a growing medium that is able to transport the water and nutrient solution properly and thoroughly. A good growing medium for this choice of hydroponic system is coconut coir, perlite, and vermiculite. These types of hydroponic systems are good for plants of smaller size that will not require much water or nutrient solution. Plants of larger size will have a difficult time getting either requirement through the dependency of a wick as its delivery source. There are, of course, benefits and downsides of these kinds of hydroponic systems. Benefits. A hands-off system is properly set up. Great for smaller plants, inexperienced and beginner growers, and even children. Downsides. Not well suited for larger plants. Incorrect placement of the wick or unsuitable material use can cause your plants to die. Deep water culture DWC systems. These kinds of hydroponic systems are considered the easiest type of hydroponic system to use. This kind of system allows you to use a reservoir in order to hold your nutrient solution. The plant roots are then suspended into that solution in order to be constantly supplied with water, oxygen, and nutrients. Through the suspending of plant roots in a nutrient solution and oxygenated water, this method will allow plant production. Plastic buckets are traditionally used in this method, with large containers being favored for the plant to be placed in. It is placed with a net pot, which from the center of the lid it is suspended from. Porous stones and an air pump help to ensure that the solution is saturated with adequate amounts of oxygen. Through this method, the plants are able to grow at faster rates due to the higher amounts of oxygen that the roots are exposed to. Through the use of an air pump through an air stone, the water is able to be oxygenated when bubbles are produced in the nutrient solution. This will prevent drowning from occurring to your plant and its roots. Typically, your plants will be housed in a net of pots that are then placed in a board of foam or into the top of the container that you choose to use for your reservoir. With the addition of your growing media of choice, it will be added into your net of pots. This will provide a secure home for the root system of your plants from the very beginning of planting. As always, there are benefits and downsides of this kind of hydroponic system. Benefits. Inexpensive system that can be easily constructed in your own home. Considered very low maintenance. Is a recirculating system which will lessen the overall amount of waste. Downsides. Larger plants are not suitable for this system. Plants with a longer growing period are not well suited for this system. Nutrient film technique, NFT systems. This system is considered a popular technique in commercial hydroponic systems. It allows plants to grow in channels which contain the nutrient solution that is pumped throughout the system. The system keeps the solution constantly flowing and pumping throughout. By the time that the solution reaches the end of the channel, it drops back into the reservoir in which it originally came from. It will then be recirculated and start the process all over again. This is where the system gets the part of film in its name. These channels will have plants placed inside them through the use of net pots and a growing medium. The plants are able to be harvested or replaced on a basis of one by one. As always, there are benefits and downsides of every type of hydroponic system. Benefits. This system requires the minimal amount of growing medium compared to other hydroponic systems. Since this system is recirculating, it will accumulate less amount of waste. Downsides. Any kind of pump failure will cause your plants to be completely ruined. Overgrown roots of the plants can cause clogging in the channels. Continuous flow solution culture. This technique requires the roots of the plants to be constantly exposed to the nutrient solution through a stream that continuously flows. Compared to static solution culture, this technique is much easier to automate. This is because any adjustments are made to the temperature or the concentrations of the solution are allowed to be made in a larger storage reservoir, which is then able to spread and be delivered to thousands of plants. Nutrient film technique, or NFT, is a variation of this type of hydroponic technique. A very shallow stream is able to recirculate past the roots in a thick mat that is watertight. The bottom of the channel is developed through this and contains an upper surface which is positioned in the air and remains moist. The roots are provided with a copious amount of oxygen supply. This type of system that is properly designed will be based on the slope that is right for the channel. The main advantage that these systems offer is that the roots of the plant are exposed to an adequate supply of nutrients, water, and oxygen on a consistent basis. There can be excessive or deficient supplies of one or the other, which will result in an imbalance. Because of the design of NFT, a system is provided in which all the requirements are able to simultaneously work. The advantages result in high-quality produce that yields more plants. NFT also has the disadvantage to the fact that limited buffering is offered in the case that a power outage or any other interruptions were to occur to the flow. In the overall sense, this hydroponic technique is considered one of the more productive systems. It is difficult for a base to be built for the channels in order for it to be sufficiently true. By using the floor, benches, or racks, you can create a base that can hold the channels and provide your desired slope. Depending on local requirements, both methods are used and are often determined by the requirements of the crop along with the crop site. Ebb and flow, flood and drain systems. These are the less commonly seen systems in hydroponics. However, they are still quite effective and can be the best choice to consider at times. Of course, this depends on your plant's needs and growing situation. This system does not expose the roots of the plant to the solution constantly. The alternative that this system uses is the plants are grown in a tray that is filled with a growing medium of your choice. The tray is then flooded with the nutrient solution a few to several times a day. The roots of a plant will be exposed to the nutrient solution a specific number of times depending on various factors, such as those listed below. Plant size, plant water requirement, the air temperature that your plants are exposed to, the current growth cycle of the plants, other factors that apply to the growing requirements of the plants you choose to grow. This system accomplishes the growing of the plants by using the reservoir that is below the tray. It then relies on a water pump along with a timer in order to schedule a required and correct flooding cycle. This solution in a simple form would be a tray that holds the nutrient solution located above the reservoir. The growing medium is then able to be filled into the tray. A good medium for this system is clay granules. The upper tray will be filled with the nutrient solution at regular intervals. The solution will then drain back down into the reservoir afterwards. Nutrients and air are kept regularly flushed through the medium. The upper tray will recirculate the water on it, filling past the drain stop. It will recirculate by the pump until a timer indicates that it is time for the pump to shut off. Water that is drawn from the tray above the reservoir will then start to drain back down into it. After the flooding occurs in the tray, the system will rely on gravity in order for the nutrient solution to drain back down into the reservoir. In the reservoir, the nutrient solution will then be oxygenated there by an air pump and air stone. The nutrient solution will then remain in the reservoir until the next scheduled flood cycle. The process will continue in this technique. This hydroponic system offers flexibility to most growers. As always, there follows benefits and downsides to every kind of hydroponic system. Benefits: practices the use of water and energy efficiently, allows the requirements and needs of your plants to be met through a highly customizable system and schedule. Downsides: the roots of the plant can dry out quickly if the pump is defective or broken. Damage can also occur to the roots due to environmental conditions that occur. A larger amount of growing medium is required in this system compared to other hydroponic systems. Aeroponic systems. These systems are considered the most high-tech startup for hydroponics that you are able to build. Once you thoroughly understand how they work, they don't appear as complex as they first present themselves to be. This system is similar to NFT systems in the fact that the roots are mainly suspended in the air. The difference between the two systems is that there is misting that occurs in the root zone. The mist consists of a nutrient solution. The roots are constantly exposed to mist instead of running on a thin film of a nutrient solution along a channel. Some growers will prefer to have their mist on a cycle instead of a continuous flow. Having the mist on a cycle is similar to an ebb and flow system. The cycle does last a much shorter time that usually consists of only waiting a few minutes before each misting session. These types of systems have shown to grow plants at a much more rapid pace than some of these simpler systems have shown to grow plants at a much more rapid pace than some of the other simpler systems that are offered in hydroponics. This fact may be true for most plants, but may not always be tested to fully grow plants at a quicker rate in some cases. This type of hydroponic technique does not require any substrate. This allows plants to grow with suspended roots in either a chamber of deep air or deep growth. Periodically, the roots will then be moistened with a mist, which contains nutrients that are atomized. This technique offers the main advantage of the fact that the plants are exposed to excellent aeration. Aeroponic systems have been implemented as alternatives to hydroponic systems that are water-intensive. Another advantage that aeroponics holds over hydroponics is that any kind of species are able to be grown in an aeroponic system. This is due to the fact that the microenvironment of an aeroponic system is able to be finely controlled. With hydroponics, the systems are limited to plant species that are able to survive in water only long enough until they start to be waterlogged. An advantage of aeroponics is that plants which are suspended will be able to receive all of the oxygen that is available, as well as with carbon dioxide, which will be delivered to the roots, stems, and leaves. This will accelerate the growth and reduce rooting times. Even though this description of the hydroponic system covers some benefits of it, a list below shows the benefits and downsides of this type of system. Benefits: plants have more exposure to oxygen compared to roots of plants in submerged root systems. Downsides: failure of the nozzles will cause roots to dry out as a consequence. Compared to other systems that can be set up at home, this one is not as easy or inexpensive to do so. Drip systems. These kinds of hydroponic systems are very common in commercial hydroponic operations, but are less common in recreational gardens. These systems are simple to operate on a larger scale, but are slightly overkill for gardens of a smaller size. Regardless of size and purpose of the garden, this is a great system to choose when hydroponically growing a garden that should be taken into consideration. This kind of system allows plants to be aligned in rows with a hose that connects all the plants to a reservoir that rests below the entire garden. The part of the garden that is above the reservoir contains a valve that allows water to gradually re-enter the reservoir that rests below. A water pump is connected to the hose, which connects to all of the plants and the reservoir. This water pump circulates the nutrient solution throughout the whole garden. Of course, there are benefits as well as downsides when it comes to this kind of hydroponic system. Benefits: offers a high level of control over the feeding and watering schedule, less likely to break down, can be relatively cheap to establish. Downsides: can be a bit much for gardens of a smaller size. pH and nutrient levels can fluctuate if you're using a recirculating system. Creates a high amount of waste if using a waste system over a recirculating system. Chapter 3: Substrates and Nutrient Solutions. There are various types of substrates and nutrient solutions that can be used to grow your plants. Here in this chapter, you will be introduced to the different types and what benefits there are to be gained from each type. Substrates. Growers that choose hydroponics to produce and benefit their crop will have to make the obvious decision of what type of medium to choose. Depending on the plant and type of hydroponic system being used, each medium will hold benefits or complications for each hydroponic setup. The different types of mediums will be introduced here in this chapter, along with the benefits they offer, along with what plants and systems they pair best with. Listed below is an overview of the mediums that will be presented in this section of the book: brick shards, pumice, perlite, expanded clay aggregate, core peat, rice husks, grow stones, polystyrene packing peanuts, wood fiber, sheep wool, sand, gravel, vermiculite, rock wool. Expanded clay aggregate. This medium is baked pellets of clay. They are compatible with solutions that are hydroponic. This means that all of the nutrients are able to be controlled in a water-based solution. These pellets contain a neutral pH, are inert, and hold no nutrient value. These pellets are able to be formed into balls and then baked in kilns at 1200 degrees Celsius. Cooking the pellets at this rate in the kilns causes them to expand. After the pellets expand, they then become porous. These pellets are lightweight and will not compact over time. The pellets can have a uniform or irregular shape depending on the manufacturing process that the brand uses. Expanded clay pellets are considered sustainable ecologically and are able to be reused as a medium for growing. This is due to the fact that they are able to be sterilized and not only just cleansed. They can be washed in either solutions of chlorine bleach, white vinegar, or hydrogen peroxide and then be completely rinsed immediately after. Another perspective says that the reuse of the clay pellets should not be done even if proper cleaning is involved. This is because of the fact that some root growth is able to enter the medium sometimes since it is porous. These pellets can be broken open after being used by a crop. This will result in revealing the growth that remains inside a pellet even after being used for a crop and following a proper cleaning and rinse. Grow stones. This hydroponic medium is made from waste from glass. This medium contains more space for water and air retention compared to peat or perlite. Grow stones are able to hold more water when compared to rice hulls that are parboiled. Grow stones consist of 5% calcium carbonate by volume. The remaining contents are soda lime glass. Core peat. Cocoa or core is what this medium is also referred to. The material that is left over from the shell of a coconut after the fibers have been removed is what it is composed of. It is a 100% natural grow and a good medium for flowering. This medium is colonized with a fungi called trichoderma. This fungi helps to protect the roots while also stimulating the growth of the root. It is hard to overwater your plants when using this type of medium. It has a perfect water-to-air ratio and a high exchange of cations. This means that it has the ability for minerals to be stored that remain unused by the plant, and then release the minerals whenever they are required by the plant. This medium is produced in many different forms. Cocoa peat is perhaps the most common form. Its texture and appearance reflects that of soil, but does not contain any mineral content. Rice husks. This growing medium is produced by an agricultural byproduct that would contain little to no use if it was not utilized as a growing medium. This medium decays over time. This medium also allows drainage and also retains less water compared to grow stones. There have been studies showing that this type of medium does not have any effect on the plant growth. Perlite. This volcanic rock has been made lightweight by being superheated and expanded into glass pebbles. It can be used either loosely or in sleeves of plastic that are then immersed into water. This medium is also used in soil for potting in order to decrease the density of the soil. This medium is very similar compared to vermiculite when it comes to uses and properties it contains. In general, this medium holds less water and more air. This medium is commonly used in the flood and drain method. It can float if it is not properly contained. It consists of a fusion of obsidian, granite, basalt, and pumice. The fusion of this rock naturally occurs due to high temperatures that undergo fusionic metamorphosis. Vermiculite. This medium, as mentioned previously in the book, is very similar to the medium of perlite. This is a mineral that has undergone superheating up until the point that it has expanded into light pebbles. This medium is able to hold more water compared to perlite and also has a natural property of wicking, which allows it to draw nutrients and water in a system of hydroponics that is passive. If the roots of the plant are not surrounded by enough air and are surrounded with too much water, its water retention capability is able to gradually be lowered. It can be lowered, increasing the amount of perlite by mixing it in. Pumice. This growing medium is very similar to perlite. It is a rock that is lightweight and has been derived from volcanoes that have been mined. Sand. This hydroponic medium is quite cheap and usually has easy availability. This medium is heavy, however, and is unable to hold water well. It also needs to be sterilized between uses as well if it is desired to be reused. Gravel. This type of hydroponic medium is commonly used in aquariums. Any type of small gravel is able to be used as long as it is thoroughly washed and rinsed first. This medium is inexpensive and is able to be kept clean easily. It also drains very well and will not become waterlogged, which is a great benefit. A downside of this medium is that it is heavy in weight and may allow the roots of the plant to dry out if the hydroponic system does not continuously provide water. Wood fiber. This medium is produced from the friction of steam of wood. This medium is a very efficient substrate that is organic and efficient for hydroponics. This medium has an advantage of the fact that it holds its structure and shape over a long period of time. Wood wool is what it is also known as and has been used since the earlier research days of hydroponics. The downside of the medium is that recent research studies show that it could have effects that are negative on the regulators of plant growth. Sheep wool. This hydroponic medium is obtained through the shearing of sheep wool. It has been less used than other medium types. It is still a growing medium that is renewable and promising. A study found that sheep wool compared to peat slabs, perlite, coconut fiber, and rock wool slabs for growing cucumber plants. It showed that sheep wool as a growing medium had a 70% greater capacity. The air capacity decreased with use to only 43%. With continued use, the water capacity increased from 23% to 44%. This medium resulted in the greater yield of plants compared to other substrates that were tested. Rock wool. This hydroponic medium is also known as mineral wool. It is the most widely used growing medium that is offered among hydroponics. It is inert and compatible for systems of both recirculating and run to waste. Molten rock and basalt are what it is made from. It is then spun into bundles of fibers that are single filaments. Then it is bonded into a medium which is capable of capillary action. It is protected from microbiological degradation in effect. This medium holds many advantages as well as some disadvantages. The downside of this medium is that it can cause skin irritation when being handled by the grower. This medium has advantages in the fact that it has proven efficiency and is an effective substrate, especially for commercial hydroponics. Most of this medium that is sold is non-hazardous and non-carcinogenic. Brick shards. This hydroponic medium has similar properties when compared to gravel. This medium also has an added disadvantage, which is that it is possible to alter the pH level and requires extra cleaning that is thorough before it is to be reused. Polystyrene packing peanuts. This hydroponic is inexpensive and is easily and readily available for use. This medium also contains excellent drainage. The downside of this medium is that some uses may deem this medium to be too lightweight. Closed tube systems are the main systems that this medium is used in. It is important to make sure that the packing peanuts you use are polystyrene and are not biodegradable. Biodegradable peanuts will decompose and form a sludge. A possible health risk to keep in mind is that plants grown with polystyrene peanuts could consequently absorb the styrene that is present and then be able to pass it on to the consumers. Nutrient solutions. When it comes to the types of nutrient solution you can choose for your plants, there are two main types that you can choose from: inorganic, organic. Organic hydroponic solutions. These kinds of fertilizers are able to be used either to entirely replace or only supplement the inorganic compounds that are used in solutions intended for commercial hydroponics. On the downside, there are some challenges that are presented when using these kinds of solutions. Resolutions for these issues are not easily found. Listed below are some of the main challenges that growers can run into whenever using these types of solutions. The nutritional compositions are highly variable. Similar materials can even differ depending on their source. A good example is that manure will vary not only depending on the animal it comes from, but also the diet of the animal. Animal byproducts are mainly what they are sourced from, which can make the transmission of disease a concern to be taken seriously by growers. This downside is especially serious if the plants are grown for the intention of human or animal consumption. These types of fertilizers can also particulate and can result in clogging substrates or other equipment that is involved in growing plants. A necessary step is to sieve or mill the organic materials into fine dusts beforehand. These kinds of materials can also further degrade and result in emitting a foul odor. The most common and obvious example is manure. Even though there are downsides to organic fertilizers, with the necessary precautions, these fertilizers can be beneficial and can be successfully used in hydroponics. Organic sources. Here is a list of the most common organic fertilizers that can be used in hydroponics: blood meal, bone ashes, bone meal, hoof horn meal, fish meal, wool waste, wood ashes, cottonseed ashes, cottonseed meal, dried locust or grasshopper, leather waste, kelp meal, liquid seaweed, poultry manure, sheep manure, goat manure, horse manure, cow manure, bat guano, bird guano. There are detailed grids that can be easily found that will show the nutrient contents in depth and specific to each necessary part that is required by plants. Inorganic hydroponic solutions. Adequate plant nutrition can be applied by the hydroponic solutions being formulated. Nutrient deficiencies will symptom in traditional agriculture that is oil-based. The chemistry that underlies in hydroponic solutions can also differ depending on the chemistry of the soil in a number of significant ways. These important differences that are included are listed below. A cation exchange capacity is not contained in hydroponics nutrient solutions of organic matter or clay particles. This is unlike common soil. The pH and the concentrations of the nutrient can change at a much more rapid pace due to the absence of the cation exchange capacity. This change happens much more rapidly in setups for hydroponics than what would be possible in soil. The amount of conterions in a solution is often imbalanced through the selective absorption of the plants. The pH of the solution with the plant's ability to absorb the nutrient of similar ionic charge is an imbalance that can be rapidly affected. For instance, plants consume nitrate anions more rapidly in order to form proteins. As a result, an excess of cations will be left in the solution. The imbalance of cations can lead to symptoms of deficiency in other nutrients that are cation-based. This can happen even when a quantity that is ideal of the given nutrients are adequately dissolved into the solution. Depending on a few factors such as the presence of contaminants in the water, pH level, and present nutrients such as potassium are able to precipitate from the solution. It will then result in becoming unavailable to plants. Adjustments that are routinely made to the level of the pH, the solution being buffered, and with the use of chelating agents are often steps that are necessary. In conventional agriculture, the nutrients should be adjusted in order for each variety of plant to be satisfied. Concentrations that are generally acceptable nutrient solutions do exist. Listed below are the elements that can be supplemented into a nutrient solution. The role of the element, along with what amounts are considered low and high, will also be provided. Nitrogen, essential macronutrient, low 100 ppm, high 1000 ppm. Potassium, essential macronutrient, low 100 ppm, high 400 ppm. Phosphorus, essential macronutrient, low 30 ppm, high 100 ppm. Calcium, essential macronutrient, low 30 ppm, high 100 ppm. Magnesium, essential macronutrient, low 50 ppm, high 1000 ppm. Sulfur, essential macronutrient, low 50 ppm, high 1000 ppm. Iron, essential macronutrient, low 2 ppm, high 5 ppm. Zinc, essential micronutrient, low 0.05 ppm, high 1 ppm. Copper, essential micronutrient, low 0.01 ppm, high 1 ppm. Manganese, essential micronutrient, low 0.5 ppm, high 1 ppm. Boron, essential micronutrient, low 0.3 ppm, high 10 ppm. Molybdenum, essential micronutrient, low 0.001 ppm, high 0.05 ppm. Nickel, essential micronutrient, low 0.057 ppm, high 1.5 ppm. Chlorine, variable micronutrient, low 0 ppm, high highly variable. Aluminum, variable micronutrient, low 0 ppm, high 10 ppm. Silicon, variable micronutrient, low 0 ppm, high 140 ppm. Titanium, variable micronutrient, low 0 ppm, high 5 ppm. Cobalt, non-essential micronutrient, low 0 ppm, high 0.1 ppm. Sodium, non-essential micronutrient, low 0 ppm, high highly variable. Vanadium, non-essential micronutrient, low 0 ppm, high trace undetermined. Lithium, non-essential micronutrient, low 0 ppm, high undetermined. Tools. In order to successfully maintain and manage the levels of concentration and the pH values within a range that is considered acceptable for the most growth to be successful in hydroponics, some tools may be necessary in order to do so. These tools will help you understand and control your nutrient solutions. Electrical conductivity meter. This is a meter that estimates the ppm of nutrients by being able to measure how well the solution transmits a current of electricity. pH meter. This is a meter that utilizes an electric current in which to determine the amount of hydrogen ions that are present in a solution. Litmus paper. These are strips of paper which are disposable. They are able to indicate the pH in order to determine the hydrogen ion concentrations through color changes that take place through chemical reactions. Graduated cylinders, measuring spoons. These are used for commercial or pre-mixed hydroponic solutions in order to measure them out accordingly. Advanced equipment. By using advanced equipment, you are able to perform chemical analyses that are accurate of the nutrient solutions you are using for your hydroponic garden. Balances, used for accuracy when measuring your materials. Laboratory glassware. This is glassware that consists of burettes and pipettes that are necessary for titrations to be performed. Colorimeters. These are used for testing solutions. You can make use of advanced equipment for hydroponic solutions in order to benefit your garden. When this equipment is implemented, the nutrient solutions are often able to be reused. Solutions of nutrients are never depleted completely. This means that new nutrients are able to be refortified with the old solutions in order to save the grower a lot of money. The point of source for pollution is even able to be controlled. Streams and lakes that are nearby are a common source for the eutrophication. Investing money in this area of equipment can certainly pay off and take your investment much further when it comes to your hydroponic garden. Mixing solutions. Individual salts can be an impractical approach for those who use hydroponics as a hobby or small-scale commercial business when mixing together hydroponic solutions. This is because commercial products come with a reasonable price that is available. Fertilizers that are multi-component are quite popular even when bought as commercial products. 3 parts are what these products are commonly bought as. This emphasizes certain nutritional roles. The application and timing of a fertilizer that is multi-part should also coincide with the growth stage of the plant. Make your own nutrient solution. In order to make your own nutrient solution, there are a few different types of specific nutrient solutions that can be mixed together. Depending on what your plant yields, what the purpose of your plant is, you can choose one of the solutions. Vegetative nutrient, flowering nutrient, fruiting nutrient, chelated trace element mix. Chelated trace element mix. Mixing your nutrient solution. First, you should start out with a clean and empty container that your full batch is able to be held in. Use warm water in order to fill it. Before proceeding, you can test the pH and TDS over ppm. After you have mixed in the elemental salts, the pH will change. The pH should not be adjusted just yet. Just record the readings taken from the meter. The dissolved solids content will have to be taken into consideration since you will need to be able to subtract it from the last and final reading. This is needed in order for the true concentration of the nutrients to be determined in your completed solutions. Now, one at a time, add in the precisely weighed out elemental salts and allow each to completely dissolve before moving on. You can use a simple scale to weigh out your nutrients. This formula is not concentrated. You are diluting it at this point until it is at the required strength before incorporated into your reservoir of your nutrient solution. Once it has completely cooled down, you are then able to add it into your system. Before taking your next meter readings, you should let it sit between 1 and 2 hours. The nutrient concentration or pH may need to be adjusted before it is sufficient for your plants. By now, you should hopefully know that the pH and TDS over ppm level that is required for your crop. Try to research beforehand so that you can ensure that your plants are able to access the appropriate amount of nutrients that are needed for successful growth. If the pH is off, it will be hard for the plants to thrive. A cheap and simple pH test kit can be used in order for the level of pH of your nutrient solution to be measured and maintained. Now that you understand how to mix together your own nutrient solution, here are the recipes of the different types of nutrient solutions that were mentioned previously. Vegetative nutrient, 2.09 grams potassium nitrate, 6 grams calcium nitrate, 2.42 grams magnesium sulfate, 1.39 grams monopotassium phosphate, 0.49 grams sulfate of potash, 0.47 grams 7% Fe chelated trace elements, shown in separate recipe below. Flowering nutrient, 2.8 grams potassium nitrate, 4.10 grams calcium nitrate, 2.40 grams magnesium sulfate, 1.39 grams monopotassium phosphate, 0.46 grams sulfate of potash, 0.40 grams 7% Fe chelated trace elements. Fruiting nutrient, 2.8 grams potassium nitrate, 8 grams calcium nitrate, 2.40 grams magnesium sulfate, 1.39 grams monopotassium phosphate, 1.7 grams sulfate of potash, 0.4 grams 7% Fe chelated trace elements. Chelated trace elements mix, 7% iron, Fe, 2% manganese, Mn, 1.3% boron, B, 0.40% zinc, Zn, 0.10% copper, Cu, 0.06% molybdenum, Mo. Chapter 4. Chapter 4, Plants that Hydroponics Can Grow. When you look into what plants you can actually grow with hydroponics, you can receive a list that seems short. Basically, hydroponics can allow you to successfully grow vining plants, root crops, fruits, vegetables, and herbs. When you look for an in-depth list, the possibilities are almost endless. Hydroponics becomes nothing more than an investment opportunity that can open various doors in the business world of agriculture. Whatever interests you have in the botanical world or whatever local needs can be met through your garden, there is money to be grown with hydroponics. Listed below are the various types of plants that can be grown in your hydroponic garden. Flowers. It is no doubt that plants that form blooms are sought after for beauty purposes. These plants can yield more blooms of beautiful color in a hydroponic garden. Throughout the whole year and in large numbers, these plants are able to be grown. In hydroponic gardens, most flowering plants do well. The flowers are then able to be cut or transplanted once the seedlings become large enough. Herbs. A large variety of herbs can grow well in a setting that is hydroponic. Some of the herbs that do best are listed below: basil, chives, dill, thyme, marjoram, chamomile, fennel, lavender, mint, cannabis, coriander, oregano, parsley, cilantro, anise, rosemary, sage, chervil, catnip, tarragon. Anise. This plant is an annual which is feathery and grows to about 1 or 2 feet in height. It has leaves that are finely cut and serrated that are small, with flowers that are a whitish color and clusters that are flat. The leaves and seeds both contain a taste that is warm and sweet, similar to licorice. The leaves that are green are able to be cut once the plant is large enough. The seeds can then be gathered once a month after the flowers have bloomed. The leaves can be used to garnish dishes and to flavor salads. The seeds are also useful for flavoring confections such as cookies, cupcakes, and cakes. Basil. This herb can be grown throughout the year in a protected environment such as the ones found in hydroponic gardens. Once the plant is mature, it is able to be harvested and then trimmed on a weekly basis. This type of plant responds extremely well to hydroponic growing. Cannabis. This herb is derived from the tops that flower on the hemp plants. It is psychoactive. This herb is of course controlled under Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substances Act of 1970. This plant thrives and grows more vigorously in a hydroponic environment. Most of these plants are cultivated between the August and the early part of October. These plants are then harvested between October and November. This type of plant is perhaps one of the more profitable plants to be grown hydroponically. Despite controversy, this herb is making a positive appearance in the medical field and restructuring laws that govern the cultivation and use of it. Depending on the laws in the state you either reside or grow your hydroponic garden in, this type of plant can be grown for medicinal or recreational purposes under certain licensing and restrictions. Catnip. This herb grows very well in a hydroponic environment in either partial or full shade. From the mint family, this is a perennial plant. It is able to grow between 3 and 5 feet in height. Chamomile. This herb grows well in a culture that is soilless. The making of a chamomile tea is the obvious reason for growing this herb. A number of medicinal qualities are also possessed by the herb. When grown outdoors, it will prefer full sun and tolerate some shade. Chervil. This is a crop of low light and low temperature. This plant will slowly grow between temperatures of 70 and 75 degrees. The plant will then bolt in growth and flower at an early age. To ensure good growth, it is critical that the roots are cool. Unless special cooling and shade is used, this plant is difficult to grow during the summer. Chives. This herb is a relative to the onion family and produces a supply of seasoning that is continuous and also requires little space. These are hardy plants that are able to tolerate a variety of conditions. This herb is very aromatic and is sought after by gourmet cooks. Cilantro. This is an herb that is very successfully grown in a hydroponic environment. It is able to tolerate various pH conditions as well as lower light conditions. This plant also requires lower maintenance and will reach its harvest within 6 weeks. If it is not regularly trimmed, it will go to seed. Coriander. When cilantro is grown only for its leaves, cilantro is its name. It becomes coriander when the plant is able to continue growing to seed. It will bolt if it is not kept in cooler temperatures. This plant will grow best in the exposure of full sun. Leaves which are considered immature will be sold. Dill. This herb will produce new growth when it is harvested. It can replace older and spent plants and then be replaced with seedlings that are new. This can be done around every 3 to 4 weeks. This allows a constant supply of dill to be ensured through this technique. Fennel. This is often grown as an annual plant even though it is a perennial. It grows to about 3 to 4 feet in height. The leaves will be finely divided into segments that are thread-like. These light green segments resemble the herb dill. This herb easily grows from seed once planted in the spring. In full sun exposure, it will grow best. Once the plants reach 18 inches tall, they need to be staked. The seeds are able to be harvested once the plant is ripe. The stalks that are tender and flowering are the best for consumption. This herb is used as a condiment and is beneficial to some recipes. The leaves taste similar to anise, and the stems are able to be consumed like celery would. Lavender. This is a decorative plant that is used as a nice addition to a garden. When dried, this herb emits a sweet and calming aroma. The dried petals of the flowers can be used for many decorative purposes in a variety of roles. Propagation of this plant consists of cutting the selected flowering stems. Marjoram. This herb is usually grown as an annual even though it is a perennial. It is used to bring flavor to dressings and meats. This plant thrives in full sun exposure. Seeds to finished plugs takes about 6 weeks. Plugs to a saleable plant takes between 2 and 4 weeks. Mint. The 3 examples of mints which grow best either close to or in water are peppermint, spearmint, and orange mint. Mint will yield more and produce foliage that is lush when grown in water instead of in the ground. It is ideal for hydroponic gardens. Oregano. This plant is perennial. It has stems that sprawl and are able to grow up to 2 feet tall. Small flowers of either pink or white are produced by it. By 3 or 4 years, they will become woody and need to be replanted. Oregano is a very useful herb for seasoning meats, pizza, and other Italian dishes. Parsley. This is another herb that is compatible for hydroponic growing. A long taproot belongs to the plant. It also requires at least 12 inches of depth for a container in order for the best results of growing to be obtained. Rosemary. This is an evergreen subshrub that is hardy and mainly grown for its leaves that are strongly aromatic that are used for many seasonings and also yield an oil that was once used in medicine. Rosemary is still used for aromatherapy and medicinal purposes today. The plant will bloom tiny blue flowers around the months of April and May. The foliage is woody and white on the underside, while the top is shiny and dark. This plant can last for many years and grow up to 6 feet in height. They do need protection from colder weather, though, as they are not very tolerant of it. It prefers alkaline soil and full sun exposure while tolerating some shade. Sage. This is another herb that is used for a variety of seasonings and purposes. It can be grown hydroponically and prefers full sun exposure. The full-grown plant can grow up to 3 feet in diameter. Tarragon. This is an herb that is used for seasonings and especially for vinegar. It is a perennial that grows up to between 2 and 3 feet in height. It prefers moderate sun exposure and tolerates more shade during the hotter parts of the day. Thyme. This is an herb from the mint family and is cultivated as a sweet herb. It blooms small flowers of either pink or lavender in color. It should be planted in early spring and prefers full sun exposure. It will grow under most weather conditions. Warm weather crops: tomatoes, eggplants, squash, cucumbers, green peppers, green beans, melons. Cool weather crops: broccoli, lettuce, carrots, spinach, cauliflower, Swiss chard, peas, sugar snaps, green onions, snow peas. Chapter 5. Build your own hydroponic system. Now that we have covered all the basic knowledge of hydroponics, how it varies, the systems that can be used, plants that can be grown, and the benefits that come from the practice of hydroponics, it's now time to learn how you can successfully construct one of these gardens yourself in your own home. This chapter will show you a step-by-step guide on how to implement hydroponics techniques into your own homemade garden. First off, you will need a complete list of supplies that are necessary for constructing your own garden before moving forward. Since this book has covered all of the different types of hydroponic systems, you know that there is a variety to choose from when building your own garden. This example will show how to successfully build an ebb and flow garden using recycled 2-liter bottles. For other examples on how to build different gardens, there are plenty of great sources that can be found online that can help guide your building decisions. Parts list: 3/4-inch PVC tubing, white spray paint in order to paint over the black spray paint, epoxy glue or a hot glue gun with glue sticks, 1/2-inch threaded and barbed PVC connector for connecting the vinyl tubing to the PVC, 8 parts of 3/4-inch PVC T connectors, 6 2-liter bottles that are empty and have been cleaned and sterilized, water pump, black spray paint in order to light-proof the reservoir and the 2-liter bottles, 10 to 20 gallon storage tote to serve as the reservoir, the larger, the better. 1 connector that is 3/4-inch to a 1/2-inch reducing to connect to the barbed connector, 7 of the 3/4-inch PVC elbow connectors, 6 PVC straight coupling connectors that are 3/4-inch to attach the bottles to the PVC tubing, PVC glue, a 1/2-inch black vinyl tubing, aquarium air pump, optional, air stones, optional, air line, optional. Steps to build your hydroponic garden. 1. The first thing you should do in preparation for your hydroponic garden is to cut the bottoms off all the 2-liter bottles. 2. Once the first task has been done, you should create a bunch of holes in the bottoms. These holes will serve as a draining feature. This can be done either by the use of a drill or by using a metal poker that is hot in order to melt holes through the plastic instead. 3. After the holes have been made, flip the bottom and then place it inside the bottle, sliding all the way down into the bottle. These bottoms will serve as a screen to keep your medium used for growing from moving down into the neck of the bottle and into the tubing. 4. Now you should grind down enough of the necks of the bottles to the point where they will fit into the straight 3/4-inch connectors of the PVC tubing. Once fitted inside, they are able to be glued in place by either the use of a hot glue gun or epoxy glue. It is important that you try to align them as straight as you can. Your homemade garden will look nicer when the bottles stand up straight. 5. Once the glue has dried or cured, you should take a paper towel to wad up and place inside the PVC connector opening that is glued to the bottles. This will keep your paint from getting inside the connector. 6. Next, place your bottles in the neck-up position on a covering to protect your surface from paint. Then paint the bottles with black paint. This will help light be locked out and thus prevent the growth of algae inside the bottles. 7. After the paint completely dries, you should then paint over them once more, but this time with the white paint instead. The white paint will reflect light, which will help the bottles to not absorb heat. You should only paint the outside of the bottles. Then you will start to build the base of your hydroponic system. A hacksaw will be needed in order for the tubing to be able to be cut. A sharp blade knife will then be needed in order to scrape off the burrs from the cut pieces. A tape measure will also be needed in order to make sure the cut pieces are the desired length you want them to be and to make sure all the bottles are the same height once they are positioned into place. You will also need PVC glue in order to glue together all the pieces once you are done. Nothing should be glued together until you have all of the necessary pieces which are needed and everything is able to dry fit together first. This will allow you to fix anything before it is a permanent attachment to the base. 9. When it comes to length of your tubing, the exact size is not that important as long as you have the desired size for your plants. For plants that you want at a different height than others, make sure they are on the other side of each other. This will keep your garden looking uniform and even. Depending on how big your plants are supposed to get will be how to determine the spacing of them. If they are spaced too close together, they will become crowded once they start to grow and reach their full size. For example, if your plants are expected to grow a foot in width at their full size, you want to make sure to space the planters out at least a foot apart and maybe a little more. Below is a display of what your garden should look like. Of course, your spacing can vary depending on what plants you are planning to grow. The display below is designed for plants expected to reach 2 feet in width once full grown. 10. A top view of the garden is shown below. Notice that the T-connectors connect to the short pieces which connect to each of the bottles. If these pieces are too long, they will not serve as a stable support for the planters to the base. A good length is 2 to 3 inches. Remember to dry fit everything together before making the fit permanent with glue. 11. You should also notice that the T-connector which is used for the overflow is located on the side that is opposite of where the barbed half-inch connector used for the flood ling from the pump. To ensure proper water flow, you will want the water to fill from one side of the system and then be able to return to the other side of the system. This will make sure that the flow reaches all the way around the whole system. 12. The half-inch tubing will fit by the threaded and barbed connector for the tubing. A 3/4 inch to the half-inch connector of tubing will connect them. A piece of short PVC is also needed on both sides of the connector for the other fittings to be connected. The half-inch of PVC tubing is able to be connected through the barbed connector. What is not shown in the picture is a necessary connector which will go into the half-inch tubing and is also threaded on the other end. The barbed connector simply screws into it. 13. You are now able to place the 2-liter bottles into their place in the base of your hydroponics system. Press the bottles in firmly without gluing them in. You will need to be able to remove them later for the purposes of maintenance and cleaning, especially in between grows. The roots of your plants will end up growing down inside of the tubing, regardless of whatever attempts you make to stop this from happening. This will be able to cause clogging and is a great reason to leave your bottles unglued so that you can clean out roots in between grows. This connection will inevitably cause a slight bit of dripping but will slowly come to a stop once the mineral salts have a chance to build up and clog any loose ends that allow dripping. 14. Once you have your bottles in place, you should then be able to construct the overflow side. Your bottles will need to be in place. This will help you visualize and acknowledge how high you need to make the tube for the overflow. The height of the tube is what will determine the height that is in the water bottles. The level of the water in the bottles should be about 2 inches below the growing medium's top that is inside the bottles. Plenty of moisture will be provided by this level. It will also prevent your plants from developing any stem rot, which is caused by excess moisture present on the main stem. 15. Now that your homemade system is built and dry fitted, you are then able to glue together the connections of the PVC except where the bottles will connect to the system. These bottles need always to be left when they can be removed from the garden for maintenance and cleaning purposes for the garden overall. 16. Air pockets that occur in your hydroponic system can cause various problems for the flow of your nutrient solution. It can cause improper filling of water in the bottles, while some may fill up regularly. You can easily fix this problem by simply drilling a couple of venting holes in the top of the overflow tube. It is important that you make sure that the holes are at the very top, or else water will constantly leak. The holes should be above the water's path that it takes in order to flow back into the reservoir. Some water drops will occasionally drip out of these holes, but it should be very little if the holes are placed correctly. 17. Now that you have your hydroponic system completely assembled together, you need to attach your pump in order to set up your reservoir. The best location for the reservoir is directly under your overflow tube. It is able to be lined up, and a hole can then be cut into the lid of your tote so that it can enter and access the water and nutrients held in the reservoir. The tote that you use as your reservoir will need to be painted black in order to keep out light and prevent the growth of algae. You will then need to also paint it white as you've done with the rest of your hydroponic system. This will reflect light and prevent the absorption of heat. 18. An additional hole should be made in the lid of the reservoir in order to allow access to the water and nutrients for the pump. There should also be a clear tube that connects to the reservoir that will allow the air pump to be connected to the system. Your fully constructed hydroponic system should look like the one above. You can see that there is plenty of space between the plants and that there is a variety of plants being grown in the garden. You can place your garden on top of a table with the reservoir resting on the floor or ground with the rest of the connections in place. Now that you have everything set up, it is up to you what additions or adjustments you want to make to your garden in order to ensure all of the needs of your plants are met. Conclusion. Thank you again for downloading this book. I hope this book was able to help you learn all that there is to know about hydroponics and to be able to take it into your own hands. The next step is to build your own hydroponic garden and formulate your own nutrient solution so you can grow large and healthy plants. Finally, if you enjoyed this book, please take the time to share your thoughts and post a review on Amazon. It'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you and good luck.